lineup after he had an emotional send-off in Tallahassee on senior night Wednesday. And it's all part of the culture that we continue to talk about and see, Corey, for this Florida State program.
And that's really what has been the difference for this program as you think about Leonard Hamilton now in his 19th season, but really in the 6th season of this style of play. They made a change back in about 2014, 2015 when they brought in Malik Beasley, Dwayne Bacon, and that group. And ever since then, Florida State has been a team that's played a lot of players and number of guys who have had to sacrifice for the benefit of the team, and they've been successful in doing so.
Fighting Irish with the basketball first, and the first shot of the game, Prentiss Hubb buries the three for Notre Dame.
And that's something you're going to see a lot of from Prentiss Hubb in this game. He takes a lot of threes, and when they're good, he makes a lot of threes.
Off the Seminoles miss, the Irish trying for the dunk. We've got a foul, but welcome to the party, Nikola Jogo.
And Nikola Jogo on his senior night getting out in transition. You see the smiles and his teammates coming over. And I'm interested to see, how did this basketball come out? Because it went down. That should count. That should be a bucket for Nikola Jogo, because that basket went through and it was hit by the arm of a Florida State player coming out. That's going to be a good basket when the officials go over. Hopefully Jamie Luckey gets an opportunity to look at this. But I believe that's a good bucket.
Did you know that the graduate senior from Hamilton, Ontario, had that in him?
No, I didn't know that, and neither did his teammates. When you see the reaction of his teammates coming up, but as Jogo goes along, that basketball is through the net. I believe it hits M.J. Walker's head. It hits the back of M.J. Walker's head and goes back out. I believe that should be a good basket.
But obviously, Jamie Luckey, after looking at it, the lead official here this afternoon said no, and so it's a couple of free throws for Jogo.
Well, I don't believe Jamie Luckey actually had the opportunity to go review it. He went over to talk with Coach Mike Bray, but I don't think he ever looked at the video. But that is apparently a reviewable play. If I'm Jogo, I'm hot about that, because that's 2 points.
Right, and it's a spot potentially on SportsCenter's top 10 plays. What a way, though, to start senior day in South Bend. He's one of 2 seniors on this short Fighting Irish roster, of course, along with their 6'11" center, Jawan Durham, in the starting 5. They were recognized before tip-off late this morning. Balsha Koprivica with the putback to get the Noles on the board.
You know, and Doug, one thing that we have to always consider, Florida State right now has a 25-game home winning streak in ACC play. However, this Florida State team is not the same team on the road. We watched them, a week ago give up a big second half to North Carolina in a loss in Chapel Hill, and we've seen them struggle at times on the road. Losses at Clemson, losses at Georgia Tech, as well as at UNC. So this team is a much better home team. And right now, Coach Ham hoping that his team shows up here on the road to clinch the ACC.
Foul on the drive by Anthony Polite. And head coach Mike Bray in his 21st year with the Irish. And you see he's the all-time winningest coach in program history. National Coach of the Year a decade ago. He's twice taken this program in both 15 and 16 to the Elite Eight. So close to getting to the Final Four, but has yet to get there.
And Coach Bray hoping that his team is able to benefit from being on their home court after a disappointing performance against NC State on Wednesday. A bit of repair to the psyches of his players, which now actually have some students in the building. I believe up to 400 students coming in and making noise at Purcell Pavilion.
Second game in a row that they've allowed, like you said, about 400 students to come in, and they certainly make themselves heard. And I find it fascinating, Corey. I have said, there's the dunk for Jogo, and that one's going to count.
And that one I can respect. I've seen that from Jogo before, and nice play the setup on the back door, when you know Florida State is going to be out in passing lanes, they try to force turnovers, taking advantage of the back door, but also clearing the side, giving Jogo the easy bucket.
Off the mark by Polite. Well, Jogo goes in with two hands this time with nobody defending him, and it's no problem throwing it down.
Well, I'm surprised you didn't go Jogo going all pogo on this right now. When you think about he's got the sticks that he's jumping off of, got off to a great start here on his senior night.
Well, consider the fact that about 10 minutes ago, both he and his head coach had tears in their eyes while they played O Canada to recognize his home country on his senior day. He has come out flying to begin his final ball game on the home floor at Purcell Pavilion.
And you got to be happy for this young man when you, as he said, his ups and downs at Notre Dame, but you appreciate what he's been able to do in this program, and getting an opportunity tonight to make a difference in this game early against the best team in the ACC, and trying to come up with a win on his last opportunity to play in this building.
And Jogo's parents moved from the former Yugoslavia to Canada back in the 1990s to escape the Civil War there. He was actually born in Hamilton, Ontario, just outside of Toronto, and where he was raised. 3 minutes in, Seminoles trying to get things going on the offensive end. It's another empty trip, and here comes Notre Dame on top by 5.
But that's been the area of concern for Florida State, especially on the road. It's the turnovers, not always getting quality shots. As Jogo knocks down the 3 in the corner, and you couldn't have scripted this any better than what we're seeing for Nikola Jogo to start off his senior night.
Strong drive for 2 by Raquan Gray.
But you know what happens now. Okay, Jogo continues to play like this, and he has a big game like he had the 18-point against Miami in a very strong performance. Then you start to wonder, why haven't you been doing this all year as Jogo continues to stay aggressive? And you can tell he's playing with tremendous amount of confidence. Trey works with the penetration. MJ Walker falling asleep, defending Jogo, who rotates to the corner, knocks down the lefty 3, and then in attack mode on the next possession finds himself at the free throw line for an opportunity to put 2 more points on the board. And right now, Jogo already with 6 points and should have 8 points because he had 2 taken off the board.
Corey, I was starting to say before, and you and I have had this conversation a number of times this year, largely without fans in the stands this season due to the pandemic, of course. I've been amazed the fact that ACC home teams have won 66% of their games, 2 out of every 3 in conference play. And that's such a much higher number than other conferences around the country. What on earth do you attribute that to?
Well, when you asked me this question early in the year, and you said, is there home court advantage? I said, yes, there were. Many of the, experts have said that there were not. But the reason why I think that there is simply because of the familiarity of the building. Prentiss Hubb pulling up with 3. He knows this building, and he's been shooting in this building now for 3 years, where Florida State plays here maybe once a year. They don't have the same level of familiarity, and I think that is a difference maker for all of these teams, is knowing the backdrop, knowing the environment in which they're playing.
Nate Laszewski. Here come the Noles on the run out. 1 man to beat. Lost out of bounds. ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by 5 Hour Energy, the official sponsor of Getting Stuff Done. The Canadian national anthem typically is not played at Purcell Pavilion, but this being senior day right before tip-off, they did play it today for graduating senior Nikola Jogo. You'll never convince me, Corey Alexander, that coaches don't care and that they don't make real lifelong connections with their players.
Well, and I agree with that, but especially when you consider Mike Brey. I mean, he cares more than average. And when you think about him, again, that's a great gesture by Notre Dame and playing the Canadian national anthem for Nikola Jogo to start this game off. But not only that, you see how emotional it was for both Jogo and Mike Brey. And when you talk about coaches caring, he's right at the top of the list. He is truly a player's coach, and his guys love competing for and with him.
Prentiss Hubb misses on the layup attempt. Wyatt Wilkes into the game with a rebound for Florida State, playing in the road blacks. Here is Wilkes on the give back from Raquan Gray. Ball heading out of bounds. Ryan able to save it. Irish back the other way on top by 8.
Oh, see, Jogo, you got to pull up on that one. Again, you got it going. You got 8 of the first 13 points already, which should be 10 of 15 for the Fighting Irish. That would have been a heat check for Nikola Jogo. But, of course, playing the right way, which is important for Coach Brey in this program, Jogo passes up an open opportunity.
Dane Goodwin's also come off the bench for Notre Dame. And Cormac Ryan has his first 3 of the afternoon. And just like that, it's a double-figure lead for the Irish.
And the Irish have come out playing with a tremendous amount of confidence. And, you know, Mike Brey talked to us about the fact that he had a conversation with his team as Nam looks at the 3, and not to say he can't make that, but I'm not sure that's the shot Florida State wants right now. But that's definitely what Notre Dame wants early in the game. We've seen Cormac Ryan get started in first half before. Had 21 in the first half at Duke, and off to back-to-back threes to start this one as Notre Dame holds a 14-point lead early over the top seed in the ACC.
Well, Corey, as you alluded to, Cormac Ryan really put it on the Blue Devils of Duke earlier this year down at Cameron Indoor. He's got glimpses of that starting here this afternoon against Florida State.
And it's been Ryan and Jogo. They've been the guys for Notre Dame early in this game. 14 points combined for these two guys as they've gotten off to a great start against Florida State. And again, you know, you always ask the question, wait a minute, if you come in and you can do this against Florida State, why haven't you been doing this all season long? We've seen spots where these guys have been spectacular this year. However, the consistency has been the issue for not only those two, but for this entire Notre Dame team all season.
The outstanding Florida State freshman Scottie Barnes off the bench with his first 2, and that snaps an 8-0 Notre Dame run.
That's normally when the game changes for Florida State, is once Scottie Barnes comes into the game. However, he's been in for a few minutes now, and it's still Notre Dame has been able to handle their business as Dane Goodwin gets a look from the 3 in the corner, unable to finish it. But the other senior, Jawan Durham, making plays defensively and turning it into offense.
Yeah, don't forget about me, says the senior from Tampa, Florida. It's my senior day, too. Seminoles get those 2 right back on the pull-up. 21-9, Irish on top.
And Florida State has to be careful about building, you know, digging themselves into this hole that they've done early in this game, because that puts so much more pressure on them to come up with turnovers against Notre Dame. And Notre Dame, quite frankly, is a team that doesn't turn the basketball over much. So that's not something that Leonard Hamilton's group can rely on in this game.
Today, our full day of college basketball across our networks is highlighted by 2 key matchups on ESPN and the app. Number 4, Illinois takes on number 7, Ohio State at 4 Eastern, 3 Central. And then Duke and North Carolina square off again. The Tar Heels beat the Blue Devils, of course, February 6th in a thriller. That one is a Sonic blockbuster. Raquan Gray bulls his way into the lane, and Leschewski draws the charging foul.
And give Nate Leschewski a tremendous amount of credit for stepping in there. Raquan Gray is not the guy you want to step in front of and take that charge, but you see Gray lowers that shoulder, and Leschewski above the restricted area, stepping in, taking that charge. And right now, Mike Brey has to be happy with the way things have gone for his team early, but the 5 turnovers for Florida State have definitely hampered them as Prentiss Hubb gives it right back to the Noles.
And we see Malik Osborne into the game for Florida State. He is from Chicago, and so He's got a lot of tickets for friends and family. 13 different family members have made the trip to South Bend for this game. Scottie Barnes now with 4 points off the bench for the Noles.
What a luxury it is to have your point guard being able to go out and post up the opponent's starting power forward or playing the center position right now. Leschewski, Scottie Barnes winning that battle against Leschewski in the post.
Hubb pulls up from deep. Nothing but net. It's back to a 13-point Notre Dame lead over 11th-ranked Florida State.
And Prentiss Hubb, a volume shooter from beyond the three-point arc, but he can get hot with the best of them. And Prentiss Hubb came into this game 15 points shy of 1,000. It would be one of the very few to be able to do that in the Mike Brey era in only their 3rd year. So Prentiss Hubb off to a good start, as well as Sardar Calhoun. Makes the 4th straight basket for Florida State. However, still trailing by 11 as Notre Dame has been able to operate very well on its own offensive end.
Yeah, that's because Florida State missed 7 of its first 9 shots and already has 5 turnovers. Out of bounds. It'll stay at this end when we come back. 10:55 remaining in the half.
Always delivers. A lot of electricity. That's my line. It always delivers. Trademark, copyright, not to be used without express written permission of Jay Billings.
Doug Sherman, Corey Alexander back with you. And unlike most years when Duke and Carolina play in the regular season finale, they are playing for a 1 seed or a 2 seed or a 3 seed. This year, totally different, Corey. Just trying to make sure both of them get into the field of 68.
Yeah, and that's, the concern, of course, for the Blue Devils. But I believe they have to win this game tonight in Chapel Hill in order to even stay in the conversation. If they don't come away from Chapel Hill with the win, I believe it's over for Duke unless they win the ACC tournament. As we see another turnover for Florida State, Malik Osborne leading with the elbow into Nate Leschewski. And Leschewski, who hasn't been as great offensively for Notre Dame recently, doing a much better job defensively to start this game off. 2 possessions where he's taken offensive fouls and caused turnovers for the Seminoles.
Meanwhile, as we were coming out of break, Prentiss Hubb knocked down another 3-point bucket as a team. The Irish 6 of 10 from distance, and that is why they are dangerous. This is a very good shooting team, and on the days where they have it going, they can pull a lot of upsets. Although they have not beaten a ranked opponent now since 2017. They would love to change that here and spoil the potential party for the Seminoles, who on the line today. If Florida State wins, they win a 2nd straight regular season ACC title and the #1 seed in the upcoming ACC tournament. And it's another Florida State turnover on the Koprivica travel.
But what you're seeing from Florida State on this possession alone, you consider the offensive defensive possession, is the Achilles heel for Leonard Hamilton's team. They're not a great defensive rebounding team. You saw Notre Dame get multiple offensive rebounds, and not that Notre Dame is a great offensive rebounding team, but also the 7th turnover already in the first 10 minutes of the game for Florida State. And when you look at that, they only have 6 field goals in this game. So they've got more turnovers than they do field goals. Part of the reason why they trail by 14 here with 9:40 remaining.
Yeah, this matches the largest lead of the day. Ryan being defended closely by Calhoun. 4 to shoot. Pass to the corner, knocked out of bounds. The Irish will keep with 3 on the shot clock.
This first half for Florida State looks eerily similar to the second half we saw of them last week in Chapel Hill, with the turnovers and, of course, giving up the offensive rebounds allowed North Carolina to come back. A huge comeback at halftime to come out and win that game and knock off Florida State. But once again, Florida State is not the same team on the road that we see at the Tucker Center in Tallahassee.
The point forward, Raquan Gray, #1 in black with the basketball. Calhoun, good ball fake, open 3, no. Fight for the rebound. It's Gray, and a chance for 3.
this is one of the reasons why RaeQuan Gray will be an all-ACC performer when the awards come out on Monday. You see his ability to go after offensive rebounds, but not only that, strong enough to finish through contact. An opportunity at the free throw line to make it a three-point play. But right now, RaeQuan Gray trying to get his team's defensive effort greater than it has been in the first 11 minutes of this game, because Notre Dame has found a level of confidence in their rhythm on offense. And right now, Florida State going to have a difficult time slowing them down, especially when they continue to get the quality shots that they've gotten on the offensive end of the floor.
Well, Coach Hamilton has said of RaeQuan Gray, he's understanding more about how to utilize the skills in the system we have. He shows his growth and maturity, and he says he's filling the valuable leadership role that we saw last year by current Utah Jazz player Trent Forrest. And those are pretty big words coming from a potential Hall of Fame head coach about RaeQuan Gray.
They really are. And of course, you know, he mentioned that Trent Forrest is really the guy that exemplifies what Florida State is about. When you consider coming in, the sacrifice, but also the talent, athleticism, and the defensive ability, as we see another turnover. And I know it sounds like a broken record, and we got to continue to call it out, because this is the reason why Florida State has struggled in this game. They're 7 for 15 from the floor, shooting 47%. But Notre Dame already has 19 field goal attempts, and they're shooting 47.4. So, of course, you get more shots, and you're making threes, you're going to have a chance to win.
And on those 7 made buckets for the Seminoles, 0 assists. Not a good assist to turnover ratio. Walker from the corner, no. Gray fights for it. It comes to Prentiss Hubb. And the southpaw wraparound pass and the flush by Jawan Durham.
You could not have scripted a better start to this game for Mike Gray and his group. Prentiss Hubb getting out in transition. We've talked about his scoring, but also one of the top assist players in the ACC and nationally in his 3rd season, finding Jawan Durham running the floor and finishing it off, the transition opportunity.
A bench warning has been issued to Florida State as play continues. Just under 8 minutes remaining in the first half. Inside they go to Balsha Koprivica, working on Durham, off the glass for 2.
A nice play by Koprivica, taking his time and recognizing that he's going to have one-on-one opportunities against Durham. Jawan Durham, one of the better post defenders in the ACC. Notre Dame not going to help when Koprivica catches the basketball.
Good one. Leschewski. It's another Notre Dame slam dunk. That is now 7 assists on 11 made field goals for a very connected Notre Dame team.
They came out playing like a tournament team.
Yeah, 6 of 10 from 3 is not just making shots. That's great spacing and great pacing.
17-point lead, Doug and Corey.
No doubt, Kevin, and with James Bouknight firing on all cylinders, now healthy, and Jalen Gaffney and R.J. Cole, this UConn team sets up, to me, Corey, even though they're not ranked and they've lost their share of games this year, as a potential team that could do some damage in the tournament.
And congratulations to my guy Danny Hurley on his extension. Well deserved, as he's getting that UConn program going back in the direction which we've seen them throughout the national championship years of Kevin Ollie and Jim Calhoun, of course. And right now, UConn playing his best basketball heading into March.
In South Bend, we've got Notre Dame with a surprise 31-18 lead over Florida State. The 11th ranked Seminoles have not made a 3-point bucket. They've turned the basketball over, and they've allowed at this end of the floor for Nate Leschewski and the Irish to pretty much do what they want.
And that's one of the things we haven't seen a lot of Nate Leschewski. In 9 of his last 10 games, he does not have double-digit field goal attempts. You're talking about a guy that has gotten off to great starts. That one game that he does was a 27-point game where he went 11 for 13 against Georgia Tech. So they need for him to be more aggressive.
Tomorrow afternoon, it's the regular season finale for number 18 Texas Tech and number 3 Baylor. And this one has big-time NCAA tournament implications. 4 Eastern, 3 Central on ESPN and the app. A couple of free throws by Nate Laszewski, the junior from Jupiter, Florida. And this now the largest lead of the afternoon at 15.
And even though Florida State has tried to find a way to put points on the board now, doing a much better job scoring, they have been unable to stop Notre Dame. The defensive effort is not the same for Florida State that we've seen from them in past games, especially when we see them on their home court.
Scottie Barnes back on the floor for Florida State. This is Raekwon Evans back to Barnes, under 10 to shoot. Evans misfires, one and done, and Cormac Ryan clears the defensive glass. Dane Goodwin down the lane. Nobody comes to help, and it's yet another basket at the rim for Notre Dame.
And you see the difference between Nam playing in his first year at Florida State in comparison to, Kopovica, who's now in his second year. Kopovica, a better defender on the perimeter, and that's one of the things when you play against Florida State, you're going to have your opportunities against their centers. You've got to have guys that can make plays. Dane Goodwin, one of those guys who does a great job being able to attack off the bounce and not only being able to finish, but when he's fouled, goes to the free throw line and takes advantage of those opportunities.
And so here's Raekwon Gray, redshirt junior out of Dillard High School in Fort Lauderdale, makes the first. He's been a classic example. He's been a classic example of somebody who has really worked at his game now in his 4th year in the program after a redshirt year. And he's gone from role player to he's going to be somewhere on the all-ACC teams when they are announced later this week.
I agree, and he's part of the culture at Florida State where you have 2 different types of guys. They've had the one and dones. They've had the guys who have come in, played 1 year, maybe 2, and have been, NBA first-round picks and lottery picks. But they also have the development, which is a bigger piece to the puzzle, where you have the guys like Raekwon Gray, like Anthony Polite, and you think about Trent Forrest and on and on and on, all the guys who have developed in the system with Leonard Hamilton, with C.Y. Charlton Young, with Stan Jones. And the reason why this program has had so much success, especially when you consider the last 6 years, but then you go back to, before when they played differently, when Leonard Hamilton won the ACC in 2012. It was a different style of play for Florida State back then than what you see from them right now, but nonetheless productive.
MJ Walker spins into the paint, hangs in the air, left it on the rim.
And Doug, one of the things we talked about before, and you and I will go back and forth with this on the home court advantage, and does it matter? Florida State made 13 3-point field goals on Wednesday night at home against Boston College. Now, not to say that Boston College is a great defensive team, but to be completely honest, not to say that Notre Dame is a great defensive team either. Right now in this game, Florida State is 0 for 7 from 3. And again, to me, that's a difference maker when you consider playing at home where you're familiar with the building and playing on the road where somewhere where you maybe have had a shoot around before. But in a noon game, I doubt very seriously that Florida State got an opportunity to get on the floor and get shots up in this building, in a shoot around environment earlier today.
Prentiss Hubb, the junior out of Gonzaga High School in Washington, D.C., gets the roll on his second free throw. He's into double figures, and the lead is 17. Gray working on Jogo, no. And again, it's one and done for the Seminoles. Trey Wirtz has it poked away. And Cormac Ryan tries to settle it down, finds the cutting teammate, Dane Goodwin, for the layup.
But even on the 50-50 balls, right now, Notre Dame is quicker to the 50-50 balls and making winning plays in comparison to the Seminoles. We've seen Florida State do that all season long, but it seems as though they just have a quicker step to the basketball. Off a loose ball, Goodwin is able to just make a nice cut, and Ryan finds him for the assist. And you mentioned it earlier. We talk about it now. 8 assists on the 13 made field goals for Notre Dame. For Florida State, they only have they have to have an assist in this game to compare to the 8 turnovers. And that's been a difference maker. One of the reasons why they trailed by 19 in the first half.
Gray, the pull up from the baseline, a little strong. Goodwin fights for the rebound.
Another thing that Notre Dame has done well is they finished their defensive possessions in this game. Averages over 10 offensive rebounds that they surrender on a daily basis in the ACC, but they've been able to take care of their defensive board so far in this game.
Barnes fouled by Goodwin. Mike Bray's club, a tremendous start.
Scottie Barnes getting out in transition, and of course the long steps of Scottie Barnes covering ground. No travel on that play. However, when you're 6'8", 6'9", you have the ability to be able to stretch out and get to the rim.
5 points for the freshman from West Palm Beach. He began honing his immense skills as a youngster, both at Alice Mickens Park and the Salvation Army in West Palm. Stops at Cardinal Newman High School, University School. And next stop will be the NBA, a projected lottery pick for sure. You see the ESPN rank has him at 13. Other mock drafts have him going potentially much higher than that, Corey.
Well, and he is an example of what positionless basketball is in the NBA, especially today. And Scottie Barnes is a guy that can play 1 through 4 in the NBA level. But his size allows him to defend multiple positions, and that's where his greatest strength is, his ability to not only guard on the ball, but as a help defender as well.
Walker, no, that would have been the first assist for Florida State.
It also would have been the first 3-point field goal made for Florida State, but Florida State has now missed its last 6 shots in this game, allowing Notre Dame to continue to hold this double-digit lead.
Durham can't get the roll. Last to touch, they say, the Seminoles. So when we come back, it'll be Notre Dame.
Halftime report is on the way. Coming up, big game for the UConn Huskies, plus the 2 most mercurial teams in the Big Ten in action right now. Sean, what is up with Florida State?
Look, when we start talking about the Seminoles, every single time we start at the defensive end of the floor. They have not disrupted Notre Dame a single possession in this game. Notre Dame has too much rhythm. If you're worried about getting back in this game for Florida State, it's not about the struggling offense. It's about getting it right on D.
Yeah, they create the rhythm on the defensive end, and then you're going against a Notre Dame defense that's just safe, right? They don't foul. They don't give you any opportunities, so that sucks even more rhythm out of the game. They've got to do it for Florida State on the defensive end.
Rising start so far. Doug, we'll see you for the E-Trade halftime report.
Sounds good, KC. And at this point, we'd like to give a tip of the cap to the voice of the Irish, Jack Nolan, who has been on the call for nearly 4 decades. He is calling his final game at Purcell Pavilion today before retiring. His beautiful wife, Rhonda, also is going to retire. And they say, quote, "We're looking to live a more normal life." And in our visit with Notre Dame head coach Mike Bray this morning, he said of Jack Nolan, quote, "He's become my psychologist. We're a therapist for
ball. I will never see a 3 go in and not think, got it, his signature phrase. And that's Jordan. And, of course, I asked Alfonso Ellis as well. And Fonzo had simply, you know, Jack is very special to me as a friend, an advocate to get me on the radio and team, and the one who spent time with me practicing calling a game in preparation for my ESPN interview. I have a sincere love and sense of gratitude towards him. He's the best, and it's been a tremendous blessing to me. And again, we have to give flowers to our people when they're here. And Jack Nolan, who has always been great to me, I want to give him his flowers now because he is a strong representative of what not only Notre Dame basketball, but what the University of Notre Dame is all about.
No question about it. They're going to move to Florida, enjoy a little nice weather once this season winds down. And I've had the opportunity to get to know Jack a little bit as well. And I echo those sentiments, Corey. And he's been a big part of South Bend all the way around, too. He was on local television for a number of years. He's been so heavily involved in charitable work, and that will continue. That's not going to stop. And he's always going to be connected with Fighting Irish football and basketball. But again, a tip of the cap to what is his final day at home for a Notre Dame basketball game after 39 years on the job. And so far, his Fighting Irish are giving him a lot to be happy about on this final day for the regular season for the Irish.
Yeah, and Mike Bray called it Jack's senior night as well, and of course a different type of senior. But but when you look at it again, this performance for them, I mean, again, if this is going to be the last game that he calls here in this building, then you know want to send him off very well. And Mike Bray was very happy that we mentioned this to him because he wanted to make sure he got his thoughts across about Jack. And right now, Florida State that gets the opportunity to knock down their first three-pointer in this game. Now 1 for 9 from beyond the arc, making it a 17-point game. But this first half has been all about the Irish.
Lob taken away. And a traveling violation called against Barnes. He can't believe it.
It's legit. You know, when Scottie Barnes caught that basketball, you see his feet shuffling. Now, Leonard Hamilton feels as though he had some help in that position, but you see the feet shuffling before Scottie gets rid of the basketball. Jawan Durham may have caused some of that contact, but not enough for there to be a call as Notre Dame retains possession. Normally in a situation like that, I believe we may have some blood on Cormac Ryan as he was sent to the bench.
The New York Live ACC tournament begins Tuesday over on ACC Network, and they'll have all 3 first-round games for you. 2 o'clock, 4:30, and 7 p.m. Eastern. They'll also have the 4 second-round games Wednesday at noon, 2:30, 6:30, and 9 Eastern. ACCN has you covered for every early round game. And here's a look at the bracket while they treat Cormac Ryan for that cut on his right elbow. The tournament doesn't begin until Tuesday, but if it started right now, here's what we'd be looking at, Corey.
And that means right now from the standpoint of this time exactly, because there's still a lot that could change in this ACC tournament bracket by the end of the day. A lot riding on this Duke North Carolina game based upon the fact that if Duke does not win that game, they would then fall to the 10 seed. North Carolina State would move up to 9 and taking on Syracuse on Wednesday as Dane Goodwin knocks down the 3 to build the lead back to 20 for the Fighting Irish.
Goodwin's got 9. Hubb has 11. Jogo 8. Durham 7.
And now back-to-back threes for Florida State as Sadar Calhoun is able to knock one down and very close to a 5-second call. Trey Wertz able to get it inbounds, but you know, John Crispin and Sean Farnham both talked about this, and we mentioned it earlier in the half. If you, as Florida State, can't turn Notre Dame over, you have to rely on turnovers to get your offense going. It's going to be a struggle as we've had a three-point shootout here over the last few possessions for these teams. Dane Goodwin knocking down the 3 on one end of the floor, but the answer for Florida State, Sadar Calhoun, finding the range in the corner. But Notre Dame has been able to keep their distance from Florida State because they're not turning the basketball over, and Florida State unable to get out in transition and get those easy opportunities is making it much more difficult for them on the defensive end of the floor.
As you mentioned, Corey, Prentiss Hubb is nearing 1,000 career points. He needed 15 coming in. He's now 3 away from becoming the latest member in Notre Dame basketball history. He would be the 65th member of the 1,000-point club. And this program's in pretty good company. Carolina has the most 1,000-point scores all time, followed by Louisville. Duke is 3rd, and then Notre Dame will be in sole possession of 4th place once Prentiss Hubb gets a couple of more points.
But if you consider the last 20 years, which Mike Bray has been the man in charge in South Bend, only Villanova has more 1,000-point scorers than does Notre Dame during that time span. So Prentiss Hubb trying to add to that.
Calhoun rises up, makes his second three-pointer in a row.
Sadar Calhoun now starting to find a rhythm offensively, but can Florida State get stops? This is an important possession right now. Do you allow Notre Dame to add to that lead, or do you have some momentum going into the halftime locker room for the Seminoles?
Cormac Ryan with possession of the basketball, guarded by Gray. Got to shoot it with the shot clock buzzer going off. With 1 second in the half, the heave is well short. And we head to the locker room with Notre Dame up by 16. Now let's go to Kevin Connors, Sean Farnham, and John Crispin with the E-Trade halftime report.
All right, Doug, 28 straight losses against ranked opponents, but Notre Dame playing so well today. E-Trade halftime report. UConn no longer on the bubble after the win over Seton Hall. Sean, they are blowing the doors off Georgetown.
Yeah, you talk about getting in rhythm and flow. I mean, they have everything working for them. They came out on fire, and then Crispin spacing the floor, finding shooters all the way around in the first half.
Look, and some of that spacing comes from the pacing, right? You get the rebound and look at the push. They're pushing, they're staying wide. As you stay wide, defense comes out. You have opportunities at the rim. They're just gaining confidence at the right time.
Huskies currently a 9 seed, but likely to move on up if they continue to play like this. Kevin Connors, Sean
Either one has had a season that's worthy of an NCAA tournament consideration at this point in time. You look at this Kentucky team, they still have that great length. So what are you playing for at this time?
A 10 seed, Minnesota with a chance, John, because they're playing at home.
Yeah, they are playing at home. They cannot win on the road, and they really struggle when they don't make threes. It's a team that is very good and dangerous when they have balance, but limited when they don't. And for Rutgers, look, they're likely in the field, but they need to get playing well heading into postseason play.
Well, and to your point, a win at Minnesota, this is against a Minnesota team that if you just looked at their home schedule, you'd say is a top 15 quality team. But we also know what
still down by 9 at the break. Pitt, Clemson, Sean, the Tigers, pretty comfortable right now.
they are pretty comfortable. 8 seed, according to Joe Lunardi. And I like the
3, but then it's been the junior Prentiss Hubb with 13 first-half points for Notre Dame, coming into the game needing 15 to be the 64th member of the 1,000-point club for Notre Dame. 2 shy away from that going into the second half.
And there you see the best stuff brought to you by Papa John's. Prentiss Hubb with those 13 to lead all scorers. Jogo had the hot hand early, and he actually turned down a couple of shots there. You want him to keep firing.
I want him to keep firing. I want Nate Laszewski to keep firing. I want everyone from Notre Dame to keep firing, because that's the way Mike Gray coaches them. He coaches confidence on the offensive end of the floor. He never wants guys to turn down good looks, especially when they're good shooters. And speaking of Jogo, he should have 10 points. A dunk that went through, that bounced off M.J. Walker's head, did not count and give him those 2 points. He should be 3 for 3 from the field with 10 points.
47-31. Notre Dame trying to earn its first win over a ranked opponent in 4 years. They led by as many as 20 points late in the first half, and they've really been in control right from the tip. And if you're Florida State, Corey, what do they need to do to chip away at this and get back into it?
Well, they tried to run action to get M.J. Walker a good look, and he got the good look, but unable to knock it down to start the second half. And M.J. Walker now 0 for 4 from the field, is yet to score. I'm sorry, 0 for 4 from 3, 0 for 7 from the field, and is yet to score in what is his last regular season ACC game. And coming off of an 18-point effort against Boston College, where he knocked down 6 of 9 3-point field goal attempts, as Prentiss Hubb airmails that one a little bit to the right. But M.J. Walker's got to get going for Florida State. But the thing that Florida State's going to have to do most to get back into this game is on the defensive end of the floor. They've got to find a way to disrupt Notre Dame. The Fighting Irish shooting 47% in the first half of this game. Florida State has held their last 4 opponents under 40% from the game, even in that loss against North Carolina.
Put back by Raquan Gray. Florida State shuffling the lineup to start the second half as well. And it's something Leonard Hamilton's very comfortable doing, especially when you go 11 deep on the roster as a matter of course.
But see, what happens as soon as you do that, now Mike Gray has to adjust and gets Jawan Durham out of the game, because Florida State is playing 5 guards at this point. When you consider the 6'8", 6'9" Scottie Barnes is able to step in and play the center position, even though he started most of the season as the point guard, he can play in the center position right now. That's how versatile he is, especially defensively. But that makes Mike Gray have to adjust his lineup and take Jawan Durham off the floor.
Again, these two coaches and programs opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of how deep you go on the bench. Mike Brey has really 7 guys he's comfortable using. Leonard Hamilton, as mentioned, goes 10-11 deep every single, not just game, but every half. You see that many guys get in there typically.
But you see Durham now back on the floor as well as Leszewski on the defensive end. And that could be an issue when you've got the 5 guards on the floor for Florida State, because they're going to pick and choose who they have the opportunity to be able to drive to the basket. And especially if they get the mismatch with Durham or Leszewski out having to guard one of those guys on the perimeter.
MJ Walker at the foul line. Nobody on either side really in any foul trouble, but a number of players do have 2 fouls each, and it's most important for Notre Dame. Jogo, Leszewski, and Ryan each have 2. And for Florida State, Anthony Polite and Balsha Koprivica, as well as MJ Walker, all have 2. But again, for Notre Dame, if you get anybody in foul trouble, Mike Brey doesn't have anywhere near as many options to go to.
You see Nikola Jogo watching a lot of NBA basketball, stepping into the lane early. You can't do that in college basketball. Once you step in, it's a violation. In NBA, you can actually get back out of there. But giving MJ Walker another opportunity after missing his first 2 free throws, and finally gets into the scoring book.
And that's for an 85% free throw shooter. And draws Florida State back within 13. Full court pressure. And it drops off with the basketball in the hands of Trey Wirtz, the junior from Charlotte, North Carolina, and transfer from Santa Clara.
But you look at it now, you got Raquan Gray guarding Juwan Durham, but Florida State will switch everything defensively and make Notre Dame have to make individual plays to beat them on the perimeter.
Last to touch was Raquan Evans, and so the Irish will keep with 5 on the shot clock.
And Mike Brey shuffling his lineup early here to start the second half. Prentiss Hubb, who started the second half, he and Dane Goodwin go out of the game. And now Hubb returns just like that. Prentiss Hubb's a guy that's used to playing 40 minutes, and you see he and Goodwin both back into the game for this 5-second offensive possession.
Hubb dumps it off Leszewski. Jump hook beats the buzzer. But a scoreless trip for Notre Dame. Here come the Seminoles again on the move. And just like that, it's an 11-point ball game.
And the adjustment by Leonard Hamilton has forced Mike Brey to have to play differently. And it's been to the benefit of Florida State early here in this second half.
Goodwin's pass nearly goes out of bounds. Works behind the back. Hubb from the foul line. Tough shot. Gray the rebound. He'll bring it up.
But everyone for Florida State now can rebound and push the basketball. So they're going to be really difficult to guard. However, Nate Leszewski steps in and takes his 3rd charge of the game. Where Leszewski's not a big-time shot blocker, but doing a great job defending the rim by getting in position and taking a charge. Now, the first 2 I'm in agreement with. This one, I'm not certain if I'm going to give that to Leszewski. I think that's a play where Raquan Gray should be shooting free throws.
As Mike Brey told us in our visit with him this morning, he's got to try to put some psyches back together, and he views the game on February 20th against Syracuse really as a tipping point, Corey, for when this Irish team got sideways. Of course, they gave up the huge lead and let Syracuse come back and win it. And he said that's a real issue. That's a problem that they're still working on. And it seems like so far today, at least for the first hour and 15 minutes we've watched his team, they've been okay in that regard.
Well, Doug, you think about the similarities between that game at Syracuse and this game, where Mike Brey said in that game he felt like they played the best first half they played all season long. Well, the first half of this game has to be in that same mix. But you look at what's happening to start this second half as Florida State is starting to influence this game with their defense, and Notre Dame has struggled to be able to combat that.
You think at this point the guys in white are starting to flash back
I do believe so, and that was one of the concerns that Mike Brey had for this team. When you think about the psyche and you see Prentiss Hubb trying to attack the rim, Sadar Calhoun does a great job of staying vertical, but also picking up the rebound. And we mentioned it, everyone for Florida State on the floor right now can rebound and push the basketball. Notre Dame is 0 for 5 from the field here in this first half, but allowing Florida State to rebound it, get out in transition, and put pressure on that Notre Dame defense on the other end.
Raekwon Evans comes up with his first point of the afternoon. The senior from Billings, Montana. He actually spent his formative years growing up in Georgetown, South Carolina, but his mom is Native American. They moved to Montana where his dad played college ball, and they lived on the reservation for a while.
And Doug,
he's got his team back within 9.
At one point, this game was 45-25. And now you look up, it's 47-38. It's in single digits. Coaches always talk about the first 5 minutes of the second half. Well, it's been about the first 3 minutes for Florida State as they've made this a ball game.
That's the first time, Corey, since 13-5 that it was a single-digit deficit for Florida State. You see the associate head coach Stan Jones addressing the Noles, who have started this second half with 7 consecutive points.
You know, we get an opportunity to look at Florida State and Leonard Hamilton and his staff, Stan Jones, Charlton Young, and Steve Smith. And, you know, Coach Ham has been regarded as the best CEO, one of the best CEOs in college basketball. And that a lot of people take shots at him from the standpoint of whether they don't feel as though he's an X's and O's guy, more so a personality manager. However, in talking to his staff, they make sure that they let it be known that Jay Leonard Hamilton is the coach of this team. He's the one with the vision. He's the one that shows how they want to play. The coaches will often do the scouting reports. His assistant coaches do the scouting reports and a lot of the game planning and management, but it's all under direction of Jay Leonard Hamilton, as Charlton Young likes to call him.
Now here is why we are having this delay. A timing issue is what the officials are checking.
You see the shot clock and the game clock stopping for a period of time throughout the action. And so right now trying to time it up and see what should be the amount of time on the clock. I said it was about the first 3 minutes, but we're probably under that time frame simply because the clock didn't start for the longest time.
Well, this is a potentially big week for Leonard Hamilton on a number of fronts. Of course, he's hoping to win a second straight regular season ACC title here today and get the #1 seed for the ACC tournament, which begins Tuesday. Although the Noles do have a double bye, they won't play till later in the week. But he'll find out on Tuesday if he's one of the finalists to get into the Naismith Hall of Fame. He's already been nominated. First time he's on the ballot, but they will whittle it down to the finalists on Tuesday.
Well, as one of his mentees, I am rooting for Coach Ham. I love that man. He is one of the best. He's been great to me going back to when I was 16, 17 years old when he was recruiting me from the University of Miami. But no one deserves it more than does Leonard Hamilton when you consider what he's done, not only building the program at Florida State, but building a program at Oklahoma State, building a program at Miami, and then here where he's won 375 games as the Florida State head coach, which is the 5th most games won by an ACC coach in the history, only behind Coach K, Dean Smith, Roy Williams, and Gary Williams. So you're talking about legendary status in the best league in college basketball all time, and Leonard Hamilton, one of the all-time greats.
And again, he said to us a few days ago, Leonard Hamilton, if he gets into the Naismith Hall of Fame someday, as Mr. Prentiss Hubb joins the 1,000 point club, he says, I'd consider it gravy on the home fries. I love that expression. Big bucket for Notre Dame and a big bucket in the history of the program for Prentiss Hubb. 49-38 back to a double-digit lead.
And you see Mike Brey now going to the zone. He's had to manage his lineup a number of different times in different manners to start this second half, whether it was going to be Juwan Durham on the floor and Nate Laszewski, or keeping Dane Goodwin and Prentiss Hubb out of the lineup. But going to the zone allows him to play the big guys and not have to worry about them defending one of the many versatile Florida State perimeter players on the defensive end of the floor. And right now, because of a Prentiss Hubb basket, Notre Dame regains 11-point lead.
And there's the latest bracketology from Joey Brackets himself. Duke, the fourth of the first four out. So a win over Carolina is a must-win for the Blue Devils to at least maintain where they are and maybe move up. But, you know, for those who think they're going to get in because they're Duke, they've still got to get past Utah State, St. Louis, and Seton Hall. And they need teams on the last four in line to also lose and fall back. So Duke's got to take care of its business tonight and then take it from there tomorrow. Right, Corey?
Well, yeah, I agree, but this Duke team, I would say they're playing differently than they were at the time where North Carolina came into Cameron Indoor to beat them, as Sadar Calhoun finishes with the dunk, and just like that, it's a 9-point game once again. But I'm not sure the Blue Devils defensively have what it takes to knock off North Carolina in their building. And when you consider in ACC play, North Carolina is undefeated in the Dean Dome this year, and they will have fans for the second time this year. We saw what they were able to do in the second half comeback last week over Florida State. And we'll see if they're able to do the same thing against the Blue Devils on their home court tonight at 6. Sadar Calhoun picks up the easy bucket off the turnover, making it a 9-point game once again for Florida State. But putting Prentiss Hubb at the free throw line, opportunity to stretch it back to double figures.
I don't know if you agree with this, Corey, but Sadar Calhoun is a guy, he's been shooting the lights out lately. Last 6 games, 9 of 17 from the arc, and on the year shooting 45%. We see his athletic ability. He's a guy who, for me, next year when more minutes might be available, who really could step up into being a terrific player, one of the primary players for the Noles in 2021-22.
Well, first off, you said you don't know if I agree with it, but you're talking about Sadar Calhoun. And Doug, where's he from?
Oh, that's right. He's
2
one of
up,
your
2
guys.
down, baby. Come on now. 2 up, 2 down, VA, stand up. That's my young fella right there. So, of course, I definitely agree with that, as he's been a difference maker in this game, as has Scottie Barnes, who gets in the middle of that zone and just goes one-on-one with Nate Laszewski and wins that battle for the second time. I'm sorry, that's Juwan Durham. He's taking on one of the all-time best shot blockers at Notre Dame. Scottie Barnes not fazed by those numbers and goes through the chest of Juwan Durham for an opportunity in the hand one.
Yeah, you mentioned what a great shot blocker Juwan Durham is. He is 3rd on the all-time school list behind the guys we mentioned in the first half, our ESPN brothers. Jordan Cornette is number 1, 1 block ahead of LaFonso Ellis. And coming into the year, if we had a normal season where Notre Dame played a full complement of games, Durham could have gotten close, maybe. But with the way the season has gone, playing now just their 24th game before the postseason, he's going to wind up in 3rd all-time. No shame in that, certainly.
None whatsoever. My guy Jordan Cornette is sitting back saying woulda, shoulda, coulda, but it didn't happen. And he remains number 1 on the list.
And you got to think, over the last 3 years, every time Durham has either blocked a shot or not blocked a shot, our friend Jordan has reacted to himself, whether he said anything or not.
No, he's loved it. And I tell you 2 reasons why he's loved it. He loves Notre Dame and wants to see Notre Dame be successful. His coach, Mike Bray, and the more shots that Juwan Durham blocks, the greater chance that Mike Bray has to pick up wins. But also, think about how many times we've said Jordan Cornette's name in these broadcasts because of those shot block records. Again, hey, Jordan's in the TV business right now. The more times they say your name, the better off you are. And again, he does a great job for us on ESPN and ACC Network. There's going to be a reset on the shot clock now, as that basketball did hit the rim.
Yeah, Cornette 201 career block shots, Ellis 200, and Durham at 171 coming into the afternoon. At this end of the floor, the Irish has certainly cooled off. Jogo trying to get that magic going that he had from the tip-off.
And he has been aggressive from the start. Jogo, a lefty, going left and going around a great defender, and Scottie Barnes is scoring over the top of 2 Florida State defenders as Gray comes over and barely missed the shot block. But Jogo with the concentration to finish it off. and getting himself into double figures here on his senior day.
His season high was 18 off the bench to spark the win at Miami back in January. He's got 11 points and counting now. One of the 4 captains for Mike Bray's club this year. Got the start on senior day today along with his fellow senior Jawan Durham. Just the 5th time this season Jogo has gotten, actually in his career, gotten to double figures in a game.
Yeah, as you mentioned before, a big performance against Miami in what was the last win for Notre Dame. And so if they're able to get a win here today as well, it'll be Jogo is the player of the game in both of those games, coming up with wins after he has career performances. Scottie Barnes starting to flex his muscle now, continuing to get to the basket and be a difference maker.
Leschewski going to head to the free throw line as Wyatt Wilkes is called for the blocking foul.
And that's going to be the 3rd foul on Raquan Gray. And now he's going to have to be a bit cautious with 14:05 remaining in this game. He's a guy that Florida State cannot lose. They need his versatility for what he does on both ends of the floor to be able to try to get back into this.
Well, Corey, UFC 259 tonight, an absolutely stacked card with 3 titles on the line. The prelims begin 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific on ESPN, ESPN Plus, and ESPN Deportes. And the main card begins at 10 Eastern, 7 Pacific on pay-per-view. And to order in English and in Spanish, go to ESPNplus.com/PPV. Technical foul from the Florida State bench. They had been warned once before, and Jamie Luckey heard something this time and was quick to call the technical foul.
And I'm glad you clarified that by saying bench, because I don't believe that technical foul was on Leonard Hamilton. Jamie Luckey did not point at Leonard Hamilton with that. He pointed to the bench, and specifically Steve Smith. I'm not sure if it was on Smith or whom it was on, but he did not point to Leonard Hamilton. And it's so difficult, of course, to see what's going on now when you look at everyone with a mask on. And it maybe it wasn't Steve Smith. It could have been the players behind him. Not sure who it was. But that was not Leonard Hamilton who garnered that technical foul.
Yeah, that's exactly why I called it as I did, Corey, because it was emphatic and clear that Jamie Luckey was not pointing at Leonard Hamilton. So somebody else is the one he was getting, we believe.
But, Doug, here's the other thing to it. We will never know who it was on. And, again, the only people that will know who garnered that technical foul would be those guys on the bench right there. And, again, he pointed at Steve Smith. Doesn't mean that Steve Smith was the one who got that technical foul. He just made an effort not to point at Leonard Hamilton. So we know that it wasn't on Coach Hand.
Notre Dame 18 of 21 from the free throw line in this one. Have the lead back up to a dozen inside Leschewski. Make it a 14-point Irish lead.
And that's the guy for Notre Dame. If they are going to have success, especially when they get to Greensboro in the ACC tournament, they're going to need strong performances from Nate Leschewski, who has been their leading scorer all season long until, as of recently, became the 2nd leading scorer as Prentiss Hubb continues to put up numbers, and Leschewski hasn't been as aggressive on the offensive end of the floor.
3 different Notre Dame players in double figures today. There's a turnover. Leschewski the last to touch. Leschewski now with 7 points, couple of field goals, including the one we just saw, to make it once again a 14-point lead.
You know, Michael Bray did talk to us about the fact that Nate Leschewski having to adjust to being #1 on the scouting report. And we've seen him have big games. 28 against Virginia, 25 against Duke, 27 against Georgia Tech. But those games have been few and far between as of late.
Cormac Ryan returns for Notre Dame. They come in with a record of 9-14 overall, 6-11 in conference play, having lost 4 in a row, but led by that man early on, Nikola Jogo. The Irish have come out on senior day and played inspired looking to take down the 11th ranked team in the country. But Jogo is now on the bench with those 4 personal fouls with under 13 minutes remaining.
If Florida State had found a way to get back into this game early with their defensive pressure to start the second half, Notre Dame has somewhat stemmed the tide until they now maintain a 12-point lead and have kept a comfortable distance ever since Florida State made this a single-digit game.
Off the Wirtz miss. Here comes Raquan Gray. Polite, who just had the layup on the last possession, gets a paint touch. Calhoun. Gray. Florida State asserting itself to get it back to a 10-point game.
You know, that's why Raquan Gray is the guy for Florida State. And take nothing away from MJ Walker because he's had a great season. But when you look at the 2 players and you say if one has to be more valuable than the other, I would probably go with Gray. One, he's played every game, and he comes up with timely buckets, as does Dane Goodwin on the offensive end of the floor for Notre Dame.
Goodwin now with 14 points. Notre Dame leading 11th ranked Florida State by 13 points, and the Irish have been here before, and it was a big pivotal moment in their season, having won 4 or 5 heading into the Carrier Dome to play Syracuse back on February 20th. They played a tremendous first half, but then Syracuse came out and Corey just absolutely blitzed them in the second.
They did that, absolutely, when you consider it, Doug, and that was the start of this 4-game slide for Notre Dame, which they're trying to recover from now. But the similarities between this game and the one on February 20th, a great first half for Mike Brey and his group. Now, will they be able to hang on and not allow, as Coach Brey said, those demons of that Syracuse game to haunt them and forcing them to lose this game as well? Or are they able to hang on and maintain this lead over Florida State and get their first ranked win since 2017? And that can't happen.
Lays it in.
Yeah, that can't happen if you want to do that. It's one thing to get a free throw rebound, which coaches hate, but it's also when the guy that actually missed the free throw gets it and comes up with a steal. That's an even bigger problem. And this is an opportunity now for what could be, I believe, a 5-point possession.
Cormac Ryan clears the miss from Barnes, who's still pressuring, trying to take the ball away again. They get it into their point guard, Prentiss Hubb's hands. And did he get across?
No, he did not. When you see that shot clock hit 20, it is now a violation. And I was looking at the clock, and Prentiss Hubb was not across that line. And you have to establish everything into the front court, the basketball and both feet, in order to keep the basketball. And right now, Notre Dame trying to hang on to this 11-point lead.
The proud son of Big John and Benny Ruth Hamilton, Leonard Hamilton, the head coach at Florida State University. He grew up in a hometown of Gastonia where their house had no indoor plumbing. They had to boil water on the stove to take a warm bath. And what he has done in his life and career really is remarkable, Corey.
But his line, you know, in the piece we just saw was probably the most important thing. What are you doing for others? For Leonard Hamilton, it's never been about him. You know, when he was in college and finishing up college, he was taking care of his brother. You know, moving his brother with him, you know, when he was coaching at Austin Peay and when he was playing at UT Martin. But taking care of others has always been his passion. It's never been about him. And again, you know, Leonard Hamilton just signed a 5-year extension for over $11 million at Florida State. It's never been about him. And the money is not about him. It's about what he's been able to do for others and the young men that he has coached and mentored throughout his entire time as a coach, whether it's an assistant coach at University of Kentucky and integrating that staff way back in the day, or as the head coach at Oklahoma State, at Miami, or at Florida State.
He spent 12 years at the University of Kentucky when black men were not getting coaching positions, but he was hired by Joe B. Hall and spent almost his entire time under Coach Hall and worked for a little bit under Eddie Sutton. But then after Sutton was hired at Kentucky, Coach Hamilton got the head coaching opportunity at Oklahoma State, where he led people like John Starks, got the Cowboys going. He likes to talk about the fact that he's never had an opportunity as a head coach at a blue blood. He's always going to create the new blood, which he's done at Miami and here at Florida State as Cormac Ryan hits a big three for the Irish.
And Cormac Ryan, who drew blue blood against Duke at Cameron, is now trying to draw new blood here against the top team in the ACC, Florida State Seminoles, and trying to get a win here, not on his senior night, but on senior day for Nikola Jogo as well as Juwan Durham.
One thing Florida State's done better here in the second half is they've taken care of the basketball. Only one turnover in the first 10.5 minutes. But I tell you what, the Irish, Corey's done a much better job than they did in that Syracuse game we referenced of stemming the tide, at least so far, that Florida State was able to get it back to single digits, but the Irish are pushing back.
But one of the reasons that the Irish are able to do that is because they continue to make threes, and offensively they continue to operate at a high clip. We talked about Florida State and what they've done in their last 4 games, holding all 4 opponents under 40% from the field. And in this one, Notre Dame shooting 44.2, but 9 of 23 from beyond the three-point arc. And that's been the difference maker in this game, where Florida State has only made 3 three-point field goals.
Langston Wirtz the third. Trey Wirtz loses the basketball, but was fouled. The junior out of Providence Day School in Charlotte.
All right,
a trivia question.
Oh, I'm going to test your knowledge. Well, you go ahead, because it's probably the same question, so I'm going to know the answer. Go ahead.
Trey Wirtz transferred from Santa Clara to Notre Dame. At the start of the NBA season, there were 2 former Santa Clara guards who were NBA head coaches. Can you name them?
I can name one in Steve Nash. The other Santa Clara guard that is an NBA head coach.
Now think about how I said it, Corey. I said at the start of the season there were 2.
Yeah.
So that gives you a clue.
That's got to be Ryan Sanders. No.
No.
Who's no longer a coach?
No.
Oh.
Who else has been fired as a head coach in the NBA?
Lloyd Pierce?
Yes.
I did not know Lloyd Pierce was a Santa Clara guy. I did not know that.
Yeah. Santa Clara had 2 head coaches to start the year in the NBA.
Well,
I got
terrible firing, by the way. Terrible firing, by the way. Well, see, I was going to go trivia with you because you were talking Trey Wirtz. So do you know what NBA player Trey Wirtz played high school basketball with, since you're going to go NBA? Yeah.
Well, Providence Day, I should know that.
You should.
You got to help me here, CA.
All right, I'm going to go with one, Grant Williams. Providence Day star, who's now with the Boston Celtics. So, yeah, that's the guy.
SEC Player of the Year at Tennessee. Carving out a nice niche with the Celtics, indeed. MJ Walker, no. 8 minutes to go. Notre Dame holding on to a 10-point lead. You know what? I don't know if we'll have time. I got one more NBA trivia question for you that we'll get to when we come back. It includes both Notre Dame, Florida State, and...
You're going to want to see UConn, John Crispin in tournament play.
No, and if so, you better be disruptive. Right now, they're shooting it as well as they have in 2 years. 11 of 24 from 3, 60% from the field.
Meantime, Sean, no Cade. Oklahoma State playing it safe in what could be an historic game.
Yeah, it could be a historic game because it could be Bobby Huggins' 900th career victory. No Cade Cunningham. Don't sleep on the Cowboys, though. They're going to be... Who's that guy you like? Moncrief? Alexander?
I love him. Matthew Alexander Moncrief.
Yes.
Well, of course, I'm a big fan with the name being Alexander. You know I'm always in on that. But my guy, Cade Cunningham, going to miss the game, rolling that ankle earlier in the week. And, you know, we get an opportunity to look at Scottie Barnes, Cade Cunningham, Scottie Barnes, Day'Ron Sharpe, Moses Moody, all in the same starting lineup a year ago for Montverde. Spectacular high school team who Doug Sherman thinks is the best high school team of all time. However,
I'm glad you brought that up again, because we have to separate, I think, into 2 categories. the traditional high school model that we talked about with Dunbar in Baltimore, where it's guys from the same neighborhood or from the same town, as opposed to the all-star model that we currently have. So I think you make a distinction between those two.
Okay, so I go back to, I still think regardless that when you think of Muggsy Bogues, David Wingate, Reggie Williams, and Reggie Lewis, what those guys did not only in the NBA but in college, that is the best high school team of all time. And considering the fact that they all grew up together, as you mentioned, the difference in the model, I still go with Baltimore Dunbar as the best high school team of all time. But that Montverde team, spectacular, clearly one of the top 5, maybe top 3 high school teams ever.
And we, when you and I are doing a Florida State Notre Dame game in the year 2031, we'll revisit and have a better sense a decade from now how those guys have turned out as pros. Obviously, the guys out of Dunbar had much better college careers than this Montverde crew is going to have, because they're almost assuredly going to be one and done. But it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see.
Well, and of course, we will never really be able to judge that. And like you said, in 2031, when we talk about it, you know, we will have now seen Scottie Barnes, Day'Ron Sharpe, Cade Cunningham, and Moses Moody, and what they became in the NBA.
Yep.
Because I believe all 4 of those guys will be NBA players, whether they're all in the draft this year or next year, whenever it may be. I believe all 4 of those guys will have an opportunity to play. And right now, we're looking at whether this was a goaltending call. Florida State wanted a goaltending on this possession as they got out in transition as the shot goes up. And that was a good block, because you can see Durham got his hand on the basketball on the way up before it hit the glass. So that's a good block. Great job by this officiating crew recognizing that.
Gray with a team-high 15 points. Scottie Barnes has 13. 7 minutes to go. Cormac Ryan, no. Ball tipped up and in. That will be credited to Juwan Durham, but I'm not sure he's the one who guided it through the cylinder.
Yeah, Gray maybe should have 17 points now, but or 13. You take 2 away for giving them for the other side. But I believe it was Raquan Gray who was the guy tipping that one in.
Walker for 3.
And great ball movement by Florida State. And again, it's an 8-point game. And at this point, do you feel as though Notre Dame starts to have those thoughts? Okay, we were in this scenario against Syracuse, and we gave a game away. Are they able to finish it off here on their home court with the 400 students cheering for them in comparison to being on the road at the Carrier Dome?
5 to shoot. Ryan has it knocked out of bounds with 3 on the shot clock. After missing his first 5 3-point attempts of the day, Walker finally gets one to go.
And Florida State moving the basketball extremely well, finding M.J. Walker in the corner, and the rotation just too difficult for Juwan Durham to be able to get there, giving M.J. Walker a nice look for him out of the corner. Now he's knocked down his first 3 of the game.
And all 8 of his points, Corey, coming in the second half. From midcourt, didn't catch the iron, so it's a shot clock violation. Florida State gets it back, down by 8.
And Leonard Hamilton just continuing to tell his team, you know, stick with what we've been doing, stay patient. He loves the ball movement from side to side and then going to screen and roll action, putting the defense in a tough scenario. You see the screen and roll action here, but how do you recover to a guy like Raquan Gray, who doesn't take the 3, but it's going to take Leschewski straight to the rim?
Leschewski got the rebound. Irish with it against that Florida State pressure.
And on that possession, Doug, and again, Raquan Gray, one of the higher basketball IQ guys that we have in the ACC, can play all 5 positions, as smart as you get. I would have loved to have seen him take that 3, especially with the momentum his team had at the time.
Wirtz misfires. Barnes has it for FSU. Scottie Barnes right to the bucket, left it short, gets it back, goes back up and puts it in. It's the closest this game has been since the first couple of minutes.
We've seen a lot of Scottie Barnes at the rim here in this second half. The question for Florida State right now is, can Leonard Hamilton afford to keep Raquan Gray on the floor throughout this stretch. Gray has played heavy minutes in this one, and you can see he is fatigued at this point. Coach Ham probably going to have to get him a break at some point before the end of this game.
That's a big bucket for Cormac Ryan, 72-64. Traveling against Polite. Just the second turnover this half by the Seminoles.
Leonard Hamilton doesn't care for his guys playing over 30 minutes, but still with 4.5 minutes remaining in this game, Raquan Gray has played 32 minutes. Leonard Hamilton gets him a break, probably for 30 seconds until after the media timeout, but Gray's so valuable to this team. I'm sure he will be back on the court when we come back from our under 4 timeout.
Prentiss Hubb off the hesitation lays it in. A couple of baskets for the Irish to get the lead back to 10.
A nice hezzy by Prentiss Hubb, throwing off the defender as we see Scottie Barnes at the rim one more time. But Prentiss Hubb, 20 points for him on the afternoon thus far, to go along with 5 assists and 3 rebounds. And more important than any of that, he has been the guy making timely shots for this team when they needed him most.
Ryan catch and shoot corner 3 misfires. He comes up with the steal on the outlet, and the Irish can work a little clock.
Huge play by Cormac Ryan on that possession. Florida State with an opportunity to go down once again and get in transition, but ends up being the 12th turnover for the Noles, and an opportunity to put more points on the board and stretch this out to a double-figure lead.
But the travel committed by Goodwin gives it back to the 11.
Williams won his 900th game. West Virginia coach Bob Huggins a chance to do the same. Huge game. Mountaineers and Cowboys coming your way from Morgantown. Doug, he's won at Walsh College, he's won at Cincinnati and K-State, and he's won at West Virginia.
KC, indeed, we got to get Huggs into the Naismith Hall of Fame like that man Leonard Hamilton. What's at stake for his team right now? They can clinch the outright ACC championship if they can rally and win this game, and they can sort of backdoor in, and you know, if Virginia loses at Louisville at 4 o'clock coming up on ESPN2. But clearly the Seminoles want to take care of their own business here this afternoon, Corey, but it's still a pretty steep hill to climb.
It really is when you consider, you know, an 8-point game, and now you've got 3.5 minutes remaining on this one. But they've done a great job getting back into this game in the second half and making it competitive, as Scottie Barnes is on a career-high 17 points in this one, and to me solidifying himself as the ACC Rookie of the Year. And MJ Walker now getting fouled on the 3-point shot. And the opportunity to not only put points on the board and cut in this lead, but allow Florida State to pick up their full court pressure.
Fouls on Jogo, allowing for Walker to get 3 free throws, and that is the 5th foul on Jogo. So on senior day, which began so promising for him at the start, ends with 3:11 on the clock. He is done with the 5 fouls.
A great effort by Jogo in this game on both ends of the floor. Not only what he did on the spark defensively, but also offensively. And he can say he walks off this court for the last time. He left it all out there, no question about it. One of the best games he's played in a Notre Dame uniform.
So the 85% foul shooter MJ Walker has now missed 2 of 3 here this afternoon for Florida State. He's got 2 more on this trip to the line.
Yeah, uncharacteristic for MJ Walker. You talked about him at the free throw line, where he's been great all season long. Calmly knocks down the second one. But this one is important simply because it allows Florida State to set up their full court pressure as they try to get lined up, and getting Scottie Barnes an advantage off of a possible free throw mix. But Nate Laszewski recognized it and walks with Barnes to the other side.
He missed
smartly. But that was a smart play. Laszewski going with Scottie Barnes. If Scottie Barnes gets matched up with Dane Goodwin on that possession, there's a strong chance that Scottie Barnes gets an offensive board. And that's the game within the game that you see players playing all the time, but turns out to be in the benefit of Notre Dame.
Wirtz with only 3 to shoot. Spins into the lane. Gets to the rim, but missed the layup. Gray turns down the shot, finds Polite for the open three-pointer. It's a 4-point game.
And Trey Wertz got the look that he wanted, getting to the rim. Into the shot clock would have been perfect case scenario for Notre Dame, killing clock and putting 2 points on the board, but doesn't work out that way. Ends up being a 5-point swing in the other direction. No 2 for Notre Dame and add 3 for Florida State, making this a 4-point game. Scottie Barnes able to push the basketball, but Raquan Gray back into the game after a quick break. Finds Anthony Polite, who knocks down the 3. And just like that, with 2.5 remaining in this one, Florida State is back in striking distance.
All right, Corey, while we got a second, I teased it. You played in the NBA from the mid-'90s to the early 2000s, and during that time, you had 5 Notre Dame teammates and 1 Florida State teammate. How many of those 6 former NBA teammates from these 2 schools can you name?
Well, remember, we're talking about me now, so this is not going to be very hard at all. For Florida State teammate was George McLeod. Notre Dame teammates, Monty Williams, LaFonso Ellis, Pat. I can remember Pat's last name.
Garrity.
Pat Garrity, right. So Pat Garrity and Notre Dame. Let me think of who else is from Notre Dame. I'm gonna have to come back on that one.
Prentiss Hubb blocked by Polite. All right, I know you will. Bad pass, kicks off the intended receiver's shin, Barnes, and Notre Dame gets it back with under 2 minutes remaining.
And right now, Scottie Barnes trying to pick up the pressure. That's a dangerous area right there to run a screen and roll. Raquan Gray didn't take the advantage of the trap, and this time he gets the foul. That's going to be 4 on Gray reaching in. I thought that Florida State had a great opportunity to trap Prentiss Hubb right at half court.
Today, our full day of college basketball across all our networks is highlighted by a couple of key matchups on ESPN and the app. Number 4, Illinois. Number 7, Ohio State. 4 Eastern, 3 Central. And then Duke, Carolina squaring off again. This one is a Sonic blockbuster coming up 6 o'clock Eastern tonight on ESPN.
Doug, we've seen a lot of good free throw shooters miss free throws in this game, and that's a fatigue turnover by Gray. We talked about his minutes, and he just lost the basketball with Nate Laszewski guarding him, as Notre Dame hasn't scored in the last 3 minutes. But Florida State turnover on the last possession allows Notre Dame to continue to try to build on this 4-point lead.
Corey, is 74 points for Notre Dame going to be enough to win it for them?
Mike Brey likes 78 to 80. So with a minute left, they're probably going to have to put more points on the board, as Prentiss Hubb does just that now at 76. And another big bucket for Hubb here down the stretch.
Walker, no. Ball kept alive. Hubb has the rebound for the Irish, but a travel is called.
You see just going after the offensive rebound, but not putting the basketball on the floor once he gathered it on the defensive board, gives it back to Florida State.
Off the inbound, corner 3, no. Goodwin had it.
Raquan Gray not happy about the fact that Dane Goodwin, when getting up, pushed off of the Florida State. And I cannot recognize who that was on the floor. But when it was Anthony Polite, but when Dane Goodwin got up, he pushed off the body of Anthony Polite, and Raquan Gray going over, having a conversation with Goodwin about that. As you see, Polite and Goodwin get mixed up, going in for the offensive rebound. Polite gets the foul, but as Dane Goodwin gets up, you see just a little bit of action. I wouldn't even say he pushed off of him, but there was contact made on that play. Not enough for Jamie Luckey and the officiating staff, as Luckey talks with Anthony Polite, to go over to the monitor and review.
Scottie Barnes trying to fire up his teammates with only 51 seconds remaining.
And he is told multiple times by Jamie Luckey to stop. He stopped doing that. So been a lot of conversation between the players and the officials in this game. As Goodwin makes one of two.
Barnes.
Nice pass.
Pass to the corner. Evans, no. Fighting for that loose rebound. The whistle comes. It's a held ball with a possession arrow belonging to Notre Dame. What's on the line for Notre Dame? Well, it could be their first win over a ranked opponent since 2017. Florida State, meanwhile, trying to wrap up a second consecutive ACC regular season championship. But they have never led in this game, Corey. Notre Dame, thanks to that senior, Nikola Jogo, came out flying, and they've been playing with the lead all afternoon long.
He was a trendsetter from the beginning, and Jogo's energy, his effort to start this game when he had tried to dunk on MJ Walker and succeeded in going off MJ Walker's head and out of bounds, was the play that got his teammates going. Jogo scored 8 of the first 13 points for Notre Dame in this one, and Notre Dame has played with tremendous confidence the entire game because of that. The pressure from Florida State bothered them here in the second half. However, the Fighting Irish have been able to maintain a lead to this point, and now an opportunity to make this a 9-point lead at the free throw line. Nikola Jogo getting out in transition early in the game with the dunk that didn't count. This dunk did count for him on the back door, then knocking down the corner three as he got his action going early and often in this game. Timely bucket in the second half to stop a Florida State run, as this at one point was a 20-point lead for the Fighting Irish as they try to hold on for their first ranked win in the last 4 seasons.
All right, Corey, your other Notre Dame NBA teammates, Tim Kempton, Matt Carroll.
Matt, how did I forget about Matty? Matt, I'm so sorry. My God, not only teammates with the Charlotte Bobcats, but also with the Roanoke Dazzle, where we were the best 1-2 punch in the NBA D-League at the time. How did I forget about Matty? That's crazy.
I'd hope to get a text message soon.
I still don't know where I played with Tim Kempton. Where was that?
3 by Walker is good. It's back to a 6-point game. You and Tim Kempton were with the Spurs together. Timeout, Florida State. Let's send it back to the studio.
Yeah, Doug, we want to let you know Oklahoma State, West Virginia, terrific ranked matchup in the Big 12 is underway right now on ESPN News. Cowboys playing without Cade Cunningham and ice likely. Bob Huggins eyeing career win number 900. That game coming up after we go final from South Bend.
KC, we've got 31.8 seconds remaining on the clock. The Irish trying to hang on. They've led by as many as 20. But Leonard Hamilton's club continues to battle and has time to get it done.
But they've gotten a number of looks from 3 where they have not been able to knock them down. And Florida State in this game 6 for 22. Saw a great pass from Scottie Barnes in the corner to Raquan Evans, who was unable to knock down the 3. And right now for Notre Dame, it's simply going to be about handling the basketball and making their free throws, as Wirtz is trapped in that dead man's corner, calling the timeout, trying to preserve possession.
Yeah, no need for Florida State to give up the foul. There's still plenty of time, and they force the Irish to burn a timeout. By the way, you played for the Charlotte Bobcats. You're old.
Well, one thing about this broadcast partnership between you and I, buddy, you'll always be older. So.
All right, Scottie Barnes was the preseason ACC Freshman of the Year. Corey Alexander, is he going to be the postseason ACC Freshman of the Year?
I believe so. I said early in the year, I did not think that Scottie Barnes' numbers and his stats would be reminiscent of what we've seen from the previous ACC Rookies of the Year. However, his impact on winning and his defense would be even better than those guys we've seen come before him. And when you think about what he's done in the second half alone, 11 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 for 7 from the field. But the plays that he's made on both ends of the floor, offensively and defensively, is part of what makes Scottie Barnes so special. I believe that he's the runaway favorite for ACC Rookie of the Year.
Leschewski looks like he was fouled by Gray on the inbounds, and if it's on Gray, that's his 5th. Indeed.
And the reason why that's such a big loss for Florida State is because Gray, with the basketball in his hands, has the ability not only to make plays for himself, but more importantly at this time of the game, make plays for others, get in that painted area, kick it out to MJ Walker, to Anthony Polite for threes. And without him on the floor for the remaining 27.5, it becomes even more difficult for Florida State to try to finish this comeback.
Now remember, Florida State can still get the #1 seed in the upcoming ACC tournament in Greensboro, which gets underway Tuesday. If they don't come back and win this here today, if Louisville beats Virginia later this afternoon, that would also give Leonard Hamilton's club its 2nd straight regular season conference title.
What Mike Bray often talks about, he gave his team permission to go get 80, and they've gotten 80 against Florida State, and that may be enough for them to get a win here on their home court on Senior Day.
No basket. Got a foul before the shot. It goes against Scottie Barnes.
Scottie Barnes misses the chippy, but going after the offensive board, fouls Nate Leschewski, who calmly knocked down 2 free throws earlier and has an opportunity now to make this a 4-possession game at the free throw line.
The 6'10" junior played his high school basketball in Avon, Connecticut, and then went to Northfield Mount Herman Prep in Massachusetts. Trying to put this thing away for Notre Dame.
And this is a big win for Notre Dame if they're able to finish it off, when you consider that Prentiss Hubb, Cormac Ryan, Nate Leschewski, Trey Works, these guys are back next year. And this is something that Mike Bray can look to his team and say, hey guys, this is how good we could have been a year ago. And coming into next season, this is how good we need to be all the time and play this way consistently, as Notre Dame finishes off and gets their 1st ranked win in the past 4 seasons.
On Senior Day, Mike Bray shed a tear in the pregame. He walks off triumphantly after an impressive win over the 11th ranked team in the country. 5 Notre Dame players reached double figures, led by Prentiss Hubb's 22 points.